Good day, everyone. Today, we will be discussing the topic on the teacher as a curriculum designer. So, accordingly, a curriculum as a planned sequence of learning experiences should be at the heart and mind of every teacher. Designing a curriculum is a very challenging task. It is here where the style and creativity of the teacher come in. Thus, this module will provide the necessary concepts and activities that you, as a teacher, can refer to as you prepare yourself to be a curriculum designer. So let us proceed with Lesson 1, Fundamentals of Curriculum Designing. So, of course, we will be having this desired learning outcomes for this module. The first one is to identify the fundamentals of curriculum designing. And number two, appreciate the task of designing a curriculum. Now let's proceed to the content focus. So, building on Peter Oliva's 10 actions for curriculum designers, before a teacher designs a curriculum, it would be of great importance to connect to the fundamental concepts and ideas about the curriculum mentioned in modules 1 and 2. Every curriculum designer, implementer, or evaluator should take in mind the following general actions as a guide in curriculum development. So, of course, number one, curriculum change is inevitable, necessary, and desirable. Earlier, it was stated that one of the characteristics of curriculum is its being dynamic. Because of this, teachers should respond to the changes that occur in schools and in its context. Societal development and knowledge revolution come so fast that the need to address the changing condition requires new curriculum designs. Number two, curriculum is a product of its time. A relevant curriculum should respond to changes brought about by current social forces, philosophical positions, psychological principles, new knowledge, and educational reforms. This is also called timeliness. The third one is curriculum changes made earlier can exist concurrently with newer curriculum changes. So, a revision in a curriculum starts and ends slowly. More often, curriculum is gradually phased in and phased out. Thus, the changes that occur can coexist and oftentimes overlap for long periods of time. Number four, curriculum change depends on people who will implement the change. Teachers who will implement the curriculum should be involved in its development, hence, should know how to design a curriculum. Because the teachers are the implementers of the curriculum, it is best that they should design and own the changes. This will ensure an effective and long lasting change. Let's proceed with number five. Curriculum development is a cooperative group activity. Group decisions in some aspects of curriculum development are suggested. Consultations with stakeholders, when possible, will add to a sense of ownership. Even learners should participate in some aspect of curriculum designing. Any significant change in the curriculum should involve a broad range of stakeholders to gain their understanding, support, and input. Number six, curriculum development is a decision-making process made from choices of alternatives. A curriculum developer or designer must decide what contents to teach, philosophy or point of view to support, how to provide for multicultural groups, what methods or strategies, and what type of evaluation to use. Number seven, Curriculum development is an ongoing process. Continuous monitoring, examination, evaluation, and improvement of curricula are to be considered in the design of the curriculum. As the needs of learners change, as society changes, and as new knowledge and technology appear, the curriculum must change. Number 8, curriculum development is more effective if it is a comprehensive process rather than a piecemeal. A curriculum design should be based on a careful plan, should clearly establish intended outcomes, support resources and needed time available, and should equip teaching staff pedagogically. Number 9, curriculum development is more effective when it follows a systematic process. A curriculum design is composed of desired outcomes, subject matter content, complemented with references, set of procedures, needed materials and resources, and evaluation procedure which can be placed in a matrix. Lastly, number 10, curriculum development starts from where the curriculum is. Curriculum planners and designers should begin with existing curriculum. An existing design is a good starting point for any teacher who plans to enhance and enrich a curriculum. So, building upon the ideas of Oliva, let us continue learning how to design a curriculum by identifying its components. For most curricula, the major components or elements are answers to the following questions. We have to ask first what learning outcomes need to be achieved. So the element there is intended learning outcomes. We also have to answer what content should be included to achieve the learning outcomes. So that would be the subject matter. And number 3, what learning experiences and resources should be employed. So that would be teaching learning methods. And number 4, how will the achieved learning outcomes be measured? And that's assessment achieved learning outcomes. So let's proceed to the elements or components of a curriculum design. So there are many labels or names for curriculum design. Some would call it a syllabus or a lesson plan. Some would call it a unit plan or a course design. Whatever is the name of the design, the common components for all of them are almost the same. However, some schools, institutions, or departments may add other major parts or trimming to the design. So let's begin with the behavioral objectives or intended learning outcomes. Of course, we have to begin with the end in view. The objectives or intended learning outcomes are the reasons for undertaking the learning lesson from the student's point of view. It is desired learning outcome that is to be accomplished in a particular learning episode, engaged in by the learners under the guidance of the teacher. As a curriculum designer, the beginning of the learning journey is the learning outcomes to be achieved. In this way, both the learner and the teacher are guided by what to accomplish. The statement should be SMART. So it should be specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, and time-bound. For a beginner, it would help if you provide the condition, performance, and extent or level of performance in the statement of the intended learning outcomes. For example, if a lesson intends the student to identify the parts of the simple flower as stated in the desired learning outcomes, the student should have identified the parts of the simple flower at the end of the lesson. Sometimes, the phrase intended learning outcomes is used to refer to the anticipated results after completing the planned activity or lesson in framing learning outcomes. It is a good practice to first express each outcome in terms of what successful students will be able to do. For example, rather than stating students will be able to explain the reasons why it should be students must have explained the reason why. So these help students to focus on what they have to achieve as learning. It will also help curricularists devise appropriate assessment tests. And of course, you have to include different kinds of outcomes. So the most common are cognitive objectives like learning facts, theories, formulae, principles, etc. And performance outcomes. We have learning how to carry out procedures, calculations, and processes, which typically include gathering information and communicating results. In some contexts, affective outcomes are important too, like for developing attitudes or values, for example, those required as person and for a particular profession. The next one is the content or the subject matter. So the content of the lesson or unit is the topic or subject matter that will be covered. In selecting content, you should bear in mind the following principles in addition to those mentioned about the content in previous lessons. So first, subject matter should be relevant to the outcomes of the curriculum. An effective curriculum is purposive and clearly focused on the planned learning outcomes. Of course, the subject matter should be appropriate to the level of the lesson or unit. An effective curriculum is progressive, leading students towards building on previous lessons. The contents which are too basic or too advanced for the development levels of learners make students either bored or baffled and affect their motivation to learn. The third one, the subject matter should be up to date and, if possible, should reflect current knowledge and concepts. The last element or component of a curriculum design is the reference or are the references. The reference follows the content. It tells where the content or subject matter has been taken. The reference may be a book, a module, or any publication. It must bear the author of the material and, if possible, the publications. So the examples of how you should write references are seen on the screen. This psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. Jung's work has been influential in the fields of psychiatry, anthropology, archaeology, literature, philosophy, psychology, and religious studies. He said, "One looks back with appreciation to the brilliant teachers, but with gratitude to those who touched our human feelings. The curriculum is so much necessary raw material, but warmth is the vital element for the growing plant and for the soul of the child." Another, Mr. Bertrand Arthur William Russell, who is a British mathematician, philosopher, logician, and public intellectual. Russell's contributions to logic, epistemology, and philosophy of mathematics established him as one of the foremost philosophers of the 20th century. He said, "More important than the curriculum is the question of the methods of teaching and the spirit in which the teaching is given." Lastly, coming from Miss Lillian Gonsho Katz, who is a professor emerita of early childhood education at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where she is also principal investigator for the Illinois Early Learning Project and a contributor to the Early Childhood and Parenting Collaborative. She said that curriculum should help children make deeper and fuller understanding of their own experience. So that would be all for the first part, and thank you very much for giving your attention. God bless us all.